Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are tuning in to the first SingularityNET Decentralized Governance Summit. My name is Janet Adams. I'm the COO of SingularityNET, and it's my great honor to introduce you to the main track at today's Decentralized Governance Summit. So SingularityNET is moving into a new phase of exciting decentralization activity. We're following in the footsteps of our incredibly talented cousins at Cardano. We're launching our own efforts to decentralize. We follow our vision to create open, democratic, and fair artificial intelligence that benefits all of humanity, not just the privileged and elite few. And we passionately believe in this mission. We also believe that the best way to do this is to let you, our community, lead the way. So today we're bringing together a beautiful and brilliant group of people. We have experts, thought leaders, and pioneers in decentralization with us to share their wisdom and experiences with us to help us on our way on our decentralization journey. Today, we'll be learning from the wisdom and experiences of those who have already begun to pave the way towards decentralization. Of course, from Cardano, who are moving into decentralization on a large scale as they enter the age of Voltaire, but also the beautiful, diverse ecology of projects such as ICOG, Priceless DAO, and Menagerie. We will draw from the vast treasure trove of knowledge offered by experienced researchers, such as our very brilliant chief alchemist, Dr. Mihaela Uluru, the DAO Research Collective, and of course, our own in-house decentralization report commissioned by the Supervisory Council and expertly executed by our decentralized leaders, most notably Esther Galfalvi. But most of all, we want this summit to be a starting point for our wonderful and loyal and supportive community to start generating new ideas for the decentralization of SingularityNET. At the end of the day, we will have an AMA session where you can ask all your burning questions, raise comments, and start getting involved. So to kick us off, I will hand over to our much loved and highly admired leader, Dr. Ben Goertzel, CEO of SingularityNET, who's going to speak about robust decentralized governance for AI networks. Good morning, Ben.
Hello, good morning. And yeah, thanks for that wonderful introduction. So I'm gonna give a few remarks now to sort of frame all the other in-depth and interesting presentations that we're gonna have today in this decentralized governance summit. And it was really a tough decision to split this day's summit among multiple tracks as we've done, because I mean there's great stuff in all three tracks. There was just too much stuff to fit into one day, but we wanted to make a one-day thing instead of a complete marathon. But everyone's presentations are, of course, they'll be available for viewing afterwards, and it's not like we're solving the issues of decentralizing governance completely today. So I encourage people to go back and dip into the videos of every track afterwards. There's a huge amount of insight and information that we need to pull together to really make decentralized governance of beneficial AGI work. And it's amazing to be aggregating so much insight and passion and experience on the topic as we are today, both in the talks and in the community members who will be participating in AMA and follow-on discussions, and most importantly the follow-on actions that we're hoping to accelerate and help seed with the talks today and the discussions. So want to begin by bringing things back to the core mission toward which SingularityNET was founded, which is creating beneficial artificial general intelligence, and based on the premise that decentralization is likely to work better for creating beneficial decentralized AI than having a single company, government, or other elite group running things. When this AGI emerges, the mission of SingularityNET is then beneficial decentralized AGI. But it's important to understand decentralization is not a panacea where if things are just decentralized, they're good, right? I mean, Somalia has been fairly decentralized in governance for a while. Decentralization can be violent anarchy and madness, which is not productive, right? So I mean, you're opening the door with decentralization, but you're not intrinsically solving problems just by decentralizing things, right? I mean, decentralization is just the absence of some dictator or oligarchy, and then there's a variety of structures that can be put in place within the overall rubric of decentralization. So how to make decentralization work so that decentralized beneficial AGI works and works better than centralized AGI in terms of the beneficial part. I mean, that's really the higher level topic at hand today, right? And if you want to build beneficial decentralized AGI, there's three key aspects, I think. I mean, one can enumerate it a lot of ways, but there's the platforms and protocols. So we have SingularityNET platform, we have NewNet, there's the Cardano network, which has its own powerful decentralized governance initiatives and aspects. There's the Hypercycle network, a new ledgerless blockchain that we're developing, which works closely together with Cardano. There's the AGI algorithms and architectures running on top of these platforms and protocols, right? So the OpenCog Hyperon system, I've been putting a lot of time to. We have this distributed knowledge metagraph. We have probabilistic reasoning algorithms, probabilistic programming, evolutionary learning, neural nets collaborating together within this self-modifying, self-updating, distributed and decentralized knowledge graph. And we've been developing this a lot within SingularityNET Foundation. We're also in the process of spinning off a project called True AGI that brings OpenCog Hyperon to enterprises and companies, which is an important way of rolling them out to transform what happens in the global economy. You have large language models, which have been certainly the rage this year, have done some incredible things. And we have a recent SingularityNET spinoff called Zarka, which is building decentralized large language models, initially focusing on transformer neural nets, but then bringing in more from Hyperon with logical and evolutionary algorithms to increase this sort of attention to factuality and the creativity of the networks. And all these things can connect together, right? So Hyperon and large language models can work very closely together. True AGI's enterprise APIs, Zarka's end user interfaces, SingularityNET, NewNet, Cardano Hypercycle provide the tools for piecing all these things together to form a variety of applications. And this brings to the third key piece, which is governance. I mean, you can have these protocols and platforms with algorithms and architectures running on top of them, and the software can be running on a bunch of different machines with a decentralized crypto protocol, but unless you have a meaningful decentralized governance mechanism underlying all of this, this decentralized network of machines can still, in effect, be controlled by some small set of parties, and you're back to the dictatorship or oligarchy that you wanted to avoid, right? And so there's a lot of good ideas out there regarding how to make decentralized governance work. I mean, there's a bunch of projects with DAO in their name out there that have various forms of decentralized governance underlying them. It's fair to say that getting decentralized governance right in the blockchain world is still very much a work in progress, as is getting democratic governance to work in the world of regular politics, still very much a work in progress. I mean, Winston Churchill famously said something on the order of democracy is the worst possible government system, except for all the others we've ever tried. And I mean, the wisdom of that is revealed again and again in the domain of ordinary politics at the national and local level. So getting governance right is hard, just like building decentralized protocols and platforms and AGI algorithms and structures right is hard. We've got a lot of hard things to do in a way that's coordinated together, and that really brings us to the fourth aspect, which of what we need to do to get beneficial decentralized AGI built. I knew there was more than three aspects when I started out here, which is the actual human beings who are now coming together to do all these things, right? I mean, once you get human level AGI, then the AGI is rewriting its own code, it's designing its own hardware. If we do it beneficially, the AGI will be doing this coupled together quite closely with people, but the AGI will also, in principle, be able to do it autonomously, right? But we're certainly not there yet. We may be close in terms of number of years, but even so, because of exponential advance, there's an awful lot to do between here and there, right? Which means that it's people who are pulling all this amazing shit off now. It's a lot of you who are listening to me ramble on here, right? So we need to complete these protocols, platforms, algorithms, architectures, and we need to complete figuring out these governance mechanisms as well as participating in them. And I think decentralized governance of AI and AGI networks, it's important in two related ways. So it's important once we get to a human level AGI, and it's also important with what we're rolling out between here and that point, right? For the rollout of progressively more and more effective and impactful and intelligent systems. So the former bit, to have democratic governance once we get a big breakthrough to human level AGI, should be clear to anyone with the slightest amount of intuition and knowledge about how human real world political and corporate systems work. I mean, when you look at the history of AI in the last decade or so, I mean, 2014 you had AlexNet and some other computer vision breakthroughs. Then in 3 years, bang, 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 you had a wave of computer vision. Suddenly face recognition's everywhere, and computer vision is a quasi-solved problem. Natural language processing, you had BERT coming out of Google Brain in Mountain View, right? And then when was that? 2017, 18. Then a few years later, here we are with GPT-4, ChatGPT, natural language processing. Certainly not really a solved problem, nor is computer vision yet, but it's solved enough that NLP becomes a major technology that's going to transform one industry after another rather than something off in the research corner. So I suspect the same cadence will happen with AGI. Someone will make a tremendous breakthrough toward AGI. Possibly our team with the OpenCog Hyperon at SingularityNET, True AGI, Zarkon, etc. Could be somebody else, could be someone else leveraging our platform with a different AI algorithm and architecture. I mean, we're all about fostering a variety of approaches that can flourish in parallel and when it makes sense interoperate. But someone's going to make a breakthrough to AGI, then most likely on the timescale of a few years, you're going to see bang, 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 more and more interesting things happening, fleshing out this initial AGI success, getting to the point where you have full-on human level AGI. And then from that point, you're going to have a transition, I believe, from human level to superhuman AGI, not all that slowly, because there will be software optimizations the human level AGI can make in its own code base. It will upgrade its intelligence, along with slower things like inventing new forms of hardware and manufacture and so forth. So this whole process it could occur in a way that's locked down, siloed, and owned by one government. It could occur in a way that's locked down, siloed, and owned by a big company, or it could occur in a way that's sort of growing up organically from a huge variety of parties all around the globe, many different companies, many different governments, many different individual developers, different university students. Some people are afraid of the latter. I'm a little afraid of the latter, but I'm more afraid of a big company or a big government owning the whole thing, because these entities have very, very specific goals. They want to make more money for their shareholders. They want to achieve hegemony for their own country instead of all the other ones. These entities have really, really specific goals, and they're not the right way for humanity to move toward realizing its overall goals of benefit for everyone. I mean, the vast, teeming, decentralized mass of humanity is really fucked up in a lot of ways, but at least it's not pursuing some highly narrow, specialized goal of making this one group of people richer or more militarily powerful than someone else. So I think there's no guarantees with the singularity, but I think the odds of broad human benefit coming out of it are higher if it's not orchestrated by some entity which is intrinsically driving towards something besides broad human benefit, right? So that this is why we want decentralized governance, during the phase where we're going from early AGI breakthrough to singularity. And we've all, seen enough thriller movies and read enough thriller novels to see what could go wrong if you have a small organization sort of running everything. I think there's also a lot of very good reasons for decentralized governance to play a large role before we get to a major AGI breakthrough. And there you sort of have to go through vertical market by vertical market, which I don't have time to do in detail here. But I mean, you can look in media and social media, all these issues with how do you moderate posts on social media networks, and how do you let writers get paid and artists get paid for creating media that people read? I mean, these are all things that centralized governance mechanisms and centralized companies and governments are proving really bad at, right? And you see this in every domain. I mean, in music, to take another example, I've been spending time on the context of the Jam Galaxy project. I mean, media we've been looking at in the Mindplex magazine and Mindplex social network project and Singularity ecosystem. Music we've been looking at in Jam Galaxy project. And I mean, there you have a situation where within not that many years, AI is going to be able to compose and play music as well or better than humans. I mean, certain humans will have certain amazing inspiration and unique musical style and flair coming out of their humanity, but really high quality music of all sorts is going to come out of AI as well. It's going to be trained based on models learned from music made by human musicians, right? And so then how do the musicians whose music is used to train the model, how do they play into decisions about how the first generation of really powerful AI musicians are rolled out, right? They should have some say in it, since it's their music that trained the models in the mind of the AI. But I mean, right now, how much say do musicians have over Spotify, right? So or over U.S. government's laws about the rights associated with music. Medicine as one more example. I mean, who chooses the direction of medical R&D, which therapies are developed, at what pace they're rolled out, where they're rolled out, even though these therapies are discovered based on applying research tools to data from our own bodies, right? Why aren't the people whose bodies are supplying the medical data having some say over the course of medical research and deployment of therapies? I mean, we could go through manufacturing, supply chain, finance, and DeFi, like we're looking at with Singularity now and Cogito. I mean, in every single vertical market, AI is playing an increasingly transformational role. The transformational role of AI is just amping up and speeding up. There's loads and loads and loads of decisions to be made as AI rolls out across vertical markets. We would like these decisions to be made by the people whose data is feeding the AI and the people whose lives are impacted by the AI, but this needs decentralized governance mechanisms underlying the protocols, platforms, algorithms, and architectures delivering these amazing vertical market functions, right? So, I mean, I'm a big optimist about the singularity and about AGI and other technologies ultimately delivering very broad benefit to human beings and other life forms. I think from a purely rational basis, the confidence intervals have to be made very wide in any statements about what happens once you have human level AGI. We're going into a quite unknown domain here, but on a sort of heart and soul and intuition level, I'm very optimistic about what's coming. I can also see a lot of very tough transitions between here and there, particularly as these technologies transform the economy of the developing world. And I've done a bunch of work with amazing AI developers and roboticists and bioinformaticists in Ethiopia over the last decade. I think we have Betty Desi from the ICOG Labs Initiative in Ethiopia talking in this summit today. And I mean, what happens in sub-Saharan Africa when more and more jobs are taken over by AI is not very clear. I mean, you have subsistence farming there, but that doesn't pay people's phone bills nor buy them prescription medications for their aging parents, right? So you've got a lot of tricky issues that are going to be unfolding during the transition period between here and benevolent superintelligence, even if my highly optimistic intuition and feeling is right about what happens when beneficial superintelligence comes about. And I think this transition is going to come out a lot better if we have the full global brain of humanity, the full decentralized brain power of humanity across all walks of life, all economic strata, and all parts of the world, putting their minds together toward governing this AGI network as it emerges. I mean, until you have superhuman AGI, humans are still in control of this network. I mean, if everyone decides to turn off the computers that are hosting a decentralized AGI network, they can turn off those computers, right? So I mean, it's not until you have AGIs that are really significantly smarter than people that you get into a scenario where the governance is truly by the AGI. In this transitional period, we're talking about decentralized networks just governed by as much diversity of human minds and hearts as possible. Now we have mechanisms for this that we sort of understand. I mean, there's a lot of organizations named DAO out there. There's experiments in decentralized governance, many of which we'll hear about during the summit today. I mean, most DAOs don't currently work that well in terms of decentralized governance. There's various well-known problems, like, 3 founders of a project own almost all the tokens. So you have a one token, one vote governance mechanism. So then these whales, in effect, control all the votes. So they control everything. Or you have other more prosaic issues, just low participation in votes, or low level of understanding of what's being voted on, right? And I think all these problems are solvable, but we need to put more attention on solving them. And we've seen in the history of SingularityNET some actual instances of democratic governance. I mean, the SingularityNET phase 2 vote was the largest one, right? I mean, we made a vote a couple years ago to double the total token supply of SingularityNet's AGI token, now AGIX token. And this was a hard decision to come by. It's not what we planned when we started the project, but the crypto markets had behaved very differently. The advance of supporting technologies had come much more slowly than we thought would happen when we founded SNET in 2017. So we reached the point where it seemed that the best way to optimize the growth of the project, we increase the token supply. that needed a vote of token holders, and the process of working toward this vote was a process of engaging in a lot of dialogue between myself and the other most active SingularityNET developers, process of fairly intensive dialogue with members of the community to explain what we were doing, why we'd come to this point, why this was the best decision. And I mean, I didn't vote in the election. The other largest, not that I have enough tokens to swing the vote personally anyway, but I mean, none of us who were the primary founders and largest token holders voted. We didn't want to make it an oligarchy. The community as a whole voted for the phase 2 proposal, and this was genuine decentralized governance in as much as it can be in an early stage project. The deep funding initiative that you'll hear a bunch about today within SingularityNET, which is modeled in a loose way on Cardano's Catalyst program, right? So these are also genuine decentralized governance, and they're based on tokens being allocated to projects building on decentralized protocols and platforms, and the projects are proposed from the community, and the community then votes on which projects will get the tokens, right? So this, it's guided to some extent by those of us who founded and put our lives into the project, but I mean it's largely bubbling up from the community, and that's decentralized governance. There's loads of other great examples of decentralized governance outside of SingularityNet. Of course, Cardano has been making leaps and bounds forward in decentralization of their actual crypto network in operation and decentralized governance. And I'll have a chat with Charles Hoskinson on that stuff later today. And that there's been functioning aspects of decentralized governance in various DeFi protocols where the community has voted on measures to deal with weird changing economic conditions. But on the whole, I think we need to up our game as regards decentralized governance if we're going to have decentralized governance mechanism capable of sort of shepherding the birth of the singularity. And the examples that I've mentioned here are some inspirations to draw on, right? So when we formulated the original SingularityNet white paper in 2017, we planned there a gradual unfolding over a number of years of more and more thoroughly decentralized governance, where the community is participating, whether by majority vote or other explicit participatory mechanisms. The community is participating in more and more decisions on how the decentralized SingularityNet AI network unfolds. Right now, we have not progressed as fast with that as we wanted to for a variety of different reasons. But I mean, the biggest one is just it's taken longer for the community as a whole to figure out how to do decentralized governance really well. I mean, we do want to fully decentralize things as much as we can. We want to totally decentralize things before we get to superhuman AGI and the singularity. That's really the best path forward. On the other hand, we're building a lot of complicated stuff, and we don't want to throw it open to complete chaos and dysfunction when we are, I believe, progressing in a reasonable, as orderly as we can way toward developing and rolling out amazing things. So my goal in pushing toward this summit today is over the next 2 years from now to radically transform SingularityNet's governance in the direction of decentralization and DAO-ness, right? And so this can take the form of creating an entity called SingularityNet Community DAO, SingCom DAO, we've been calling it, and gradually putting more and more functions now done by SingularityNet Foundation and elsewhere in the ecosystem, step by step into SingCom DAO as its as its functions unfold, and it may take the form of creating other DAO or DAO-like entities working together with SingularityNet Community DAO. How did I pick 2 years? Well, it always takes longer to do things than one thinks, or I can't say always. Sometimes things happen amazingly fast, and you're just blown away by how fast they've unfolded. But often things end up taking longer than one thinks. So my initial thought was, let's do this in a year. Then I doubled it, and I think creating human level AGI may be coming soon. I think it's much more likely it comes in 3 or 4 years than 1 or 2 years. So I think we more than likely have a couple years to get the decentralized governance fully rolled out before the thinking machines start to get smarter than us. But still, there's a clock ticking in terms of AGI maybe coming very fast. We can't really say. Ray Kurzweil said 2029. Could be a few years after that. Could be a few years before that. So I think we really need a sort of fire under our collective butts to get decentralized governance fully rolled out and working before, lo and behold, we found we've actually achieved what we were after, and we've created decentralized AGI. I mean, just as ChatGPT popped up faster than anyone imagined, another big breakthrough, bringing us even further toward AGI could unfold faster than anyone imagines, and it could happen within SingularityNet network, right? So we're not presenting the answers to decentralized governance here. We're just trying to gather together ideas and energies toward the formation of community working group that will then start working in a regular and intensive way to generate and implement at least reasonable answers. So yeah, that's the program for the day, and now let's proceed to hear some of our amazing speakers, and then on to some community discussions.
Thanks so much, Ben. Always so inspiring to hear you. There's lots of lively chat going on YouTube. Hi to everybody on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us today. Special thanks to Max Quasar, who has sent all of his students to watch us as well, which is super fantastic. Ben, do you have a couple of minutes for a couple of questions from the community on YouTube?
Yeah, definitely.
Before we switch off, if you have a little look in the Zoom chat, you can see them in the Zoom chat. But I'll start with Anton Carlson. First question. He said, what other projects can draw attention to SingularityNet before AGI is achieved? Something that will be used as much as ChatGPT. It's not core on the centralization subject. So maybe if you just go briefly, and I'll find a decentralization question.
Yeah, I mean, ChatGPT obviously got so popular because of functionality that was just smarter than things that came before, even though it's severely limited in many ways. So if we look at the plans of the True AGI and Zarka spinoffs and the core AI R&D within SingularityNet Foundation, I mean, one thing we're looking at there is putting large language models together with logical reasoning systems and evolutionary algorithms to make, in essence, to oversimplify, like make a chat GPT that's less hallucinatory and banal, right? And it knows how to connect its statements with reality, and it can invent some new things that are not just facile recombinations of what's in its training data. So what one answer is a better successor to ChatGPT than GPT-5 may come out of the cross-paradigm AI R&D that we're doing within SingularityNet ecosystem. But of course, a broader answer to that can be found by looking at the array of projects we've been spinning off from SingularityNet. I mean, Rejuve dealing with medicine, and Singdao and Cogito with aspects of DeFi. Mindplex has launched a magazine, but is launching a decentralized social network fairly soon, right? So I think these different spin-offs, they've taken a while to germinate. They're still early stage, but each of them actually represents a certain direction for creating an application that serves some critical user needs in a way that runs on the SingularityNet platform. And the notion is we need to kindle the fire, right? You get a couple things, even one thing with a large number of users back-ended on the platform, then others can see the potential of the decentralized modality.
Thank you very much, Ben. Questions are coming in thick and fast now, so we're going to speed up with them. BCM Strategy Inc. says, compelling optimistic vision, but how does one deal with those that are not interested in operating with integrity? Not everybody is honorable, and not all honorable people, or not everyone, can afford to buy tokens to participate.
Yeah, I think, I'm old enough. I remember when everyone said open source wouldn't work because people are too greedy. And then after it started working, people are like, oh, well, yeah, things are more complicated than that, right? And actually, people will contribute to an open source code base for a mix of their own benefit and the desire to contribute to the world, right? So I think it's not always intuitive how communities are going to come together to make these decentralized informational organisms work, and sometimes they work better than our sort of cynical intuitions about people would predict. I mean, another point to think about is there's so much more destruction that could happen on the planet right now with technology already developed. I mean, there's many bad things happening in the world. There's wars all over the place. There's poverty. There's a lot of bad things. You don't have organizations like, say, SingularityNET or OpenAI or Boston Dynamics coming together with, a couple hundred genius IQ people and some millionaire investors coming together to figure out how to destroy a lot of people, right? I mean, that's not what's happening on the planet right now. So we have technologies that can be used for good, can be used for bad, can be used neutrally. And I mean, you have people trying to use these for their own self-interest, people trying to use them for broad benefit, but things are definitely shifted toward the good goals instead of the bad goals, right? And the groups trying to wreak destruction on the planet, by and large, have worse technology. So it's interesting that for all the screwy aspects of human psychology, I mean, there is, lo and behold, there's a bias toward people trying to use advanced technology to advance in a positive way and help other people. It can be easy to lose sight of that just because our media has evolved to throw a lot of bad news at us, right? So I mean, I think there is of course a risk in opening things up that bad entities can take what you've opened up and use it for bad means. I don't think that risk is worked around by centralizing things, though. I mean, something can be developed in a centralized entity, and even if the person running that centralized entity is noble and good-hearted and self-aware, we've all seen the movie. The second in command gets recruited somewhere else by offers of great wealth, right? I mean, so we don't have guarantees in human systems, and I think that openness and democracy has a higher success odds than anything else.
Thank you very much, Ben. And we could stay and talk, answer questions for quite some time, but we have to move on to our next fantastic speaker. But I just want to say thanks very, very much to all of you on YouTube. Thanks, Max, bringing together your hippie jazz musicians. It'll be great to play with them one of the days. Thanks to Took Our Jobs, always such a regular participator. And thank you for your suggestions of a 24/7 interactive town hall. Tony Charnecki, and apologies if I spell that wrong, some fantastic ideas that we can take forward into our thoughts going forwards by the time we get to the end of the day. So I'm going to say goodbye to you now, Ben, but I think you're back later for the AMA. Is that right?
I'm back for a fireside chat with Charles Hoskinson, and then for some AMA and discussion at the very end of the event as well. And I'll be lurking around watching the talks and questions for most of the day.
All right, amazing. Thank you, Ben. And I'll see you shortly, and really looking forward to the fireside chat with Charles Hoskinson. Thank you for your inspiring opening to the day.